Today we're going to talk about the importance of the decision making. Decision making it's important because by applying good judgment, it indicates that a problem or a situation is deeply evaluate and consider it to choose the best way to go ahead according to the different alternatives and operations. It's also important for the administration because it helps to maintain the group harmony and coherence and therefore its efficiency. In decision marketing, considering a problem and reaching a valid conclusion means that all the alternatives has been examined and that choice has been correct. Such logical thinking will increase confidence in our ability to judge and control situations. One of the most competitive research and analysis approaches to decision making in operation research, since this is an important tool for making production and operations. Decision making it's considered an important part of the planning process. When an opportunity and a goal are already known, the core of planning it's really the decision process. Therefore, within the context, the process that leads to making a decision. The decision could be visualized as the following. The decision could be visualized as follow. Could be number one, the elaboration of the premises. Number two, the identification of alternatives. Number three, the alternative evaluation in terms of the desired goal. And number four is choosing an alternative that's making a decision. Now I'm going to talk about the rational decision making. Rational decision making it's a multi-step process from problem identification through the solution. And we have three key points. The first one could be that the rational decision making favors objective data and a formal process of analysis over subjectivity and intuition. Number two could be the model of rational decision making assumes that the decision maker has full or perfect information about alternatives. It also assumes that they have the time and the ability and the resources to evaluate each choice against the others. And the last one is that this model assumes that people will make choice that will maximize all the benefits for themselves and minimize any cost. And we also have key terms. For example, rational decision making. This is a logical multi-step model for choosing between alternatives that follow an orderly path from problem identification through solution. We have perfect information. This is a situation in which all data that is relevant to a particular decision is known and it's available to the decision maker. What is bounded rationality? Bounded rationality describes the way that humans make decisions that departs from the perfect economic rationality because our rationality is limited by our thinking capacity, the information that's available to us, and time. Instead of making the best choice, we often make choices that satisfy us. And why it happens? To act according to perfect rationality would require us to not be influenced by any cognitive basis, to be able to access all possible information about potential alternatives and have enough time to calculate and project the benefits and determinants of each possible choice. Since it's kind of impossible to make decisions that satisfy all those factors, we take shortcuts and we make decisions that satisfy us, even if they are not the most optimal within our temporal and cognitive limitations. We make choices that we make choices to the best of our understanding and ability, meaning that we are still rational, but not perfectly. So, choosing a way to take actions related to administrative functions can be explained in the next 8 stages. The number one is identify a problem. This is the first step in order to make a decision. I'm sorry. The first step in order to make a decision is to detect a difference between the current state of the situation and the desired state. This problem makes pressure on the administrator, forcing him or her to act. This can be through deadlines, company policies, and financial crisis or others. To consider a situation as a problem, the manager must have the authority, money, information, and the resources to act. Number two is identify criteria. Indicate methods that will be relevant to solve the problem. Each person in charge of making decisions in the company had a lot of criteria that help them out to fulfill their role. And it's important to consider the criteria that are omitted, as this in the future will be irrelevant to the person. This this will be in the future irrelevant to the person who's making the decision. Number three, it's consider a criteria. Priority. Number three, it's consider a criteria. Prioritize the criteria selected in the previous stage because not all have the same importance at the time that we are making the final decision. There's always a preferred criterion, and the rest can be compared with each other and relate with the preferred criterion. Number four, it's develop alternatives. It's to obtain and present all the possible alternatives that could solve the problem successfully. Number five, it's analyze alternatives. The person responds for making the decision must carefully analyze the proposed alternatives. The good and bad points of each one should be clearly analyzed, and after having compared them with the second and third stages. Number six is select an alternative. Once all the alternatives have been established and present, they are evaluated according to the established criteria and ranked by the decision maker. After that process, a one and only alternative is chosen. Number seven, it's the implementation of the alternative. After having completed the selecting process of the decision to be executed, the application of it becomes very important. The first thing is to communicate the decision made to the affected people and commit them to it. These decisions are made from an effective planning, organization, and direction. And the last one is the evaluation of the decision effectiveness. Finally, the result achieved by the decision taking and the solution adopted is evaluated. It's also verified if the problem was solved, if it still exists. We have to study which of the we have to study which of the previous phases was wrong and make a new decision, or could be discarded completely. Could be we have to study which of the previous phases was wrong and make a new decision. Could be discarded and complete. Could be discarded completely or retaken it in a different way. Individual decision making. In the decision making process, it's observed that it has its origin in a problem, which it's a state of discordance between the current situation of a relationship of some desired state, which also requires care about alternative course of action. Understanding that a problem actually exists and that's a decision, and a decision it's required in a perceptual matter. Decision making it's a process by which a choice is made between options or ways to solve different life situations in different contexts at work, family, sentimental, business level like administration, and they can be considered negative. Um, the decision made individually could be of lower quality than the decision made in a group of people. The decision made individually contains only one point of view and loses the perspective given by the decision made in a democratic group. The other one, the group does not participate in the decision made personally and individually, and therefore its level of environment and collaboration is lower. Group decision making, as happened individually, group decision making it's a process to evaluate multiple alternatives about an expected result based on the PMBOK. There are a group of techniques for decision making which seek to reach an agreement between those involved. These techniques can be used to generate, rank, and prioritize product requirements. There are many methods of reaching a group decision, for example, unanimity, majority, plurality, and dictatorship. Unanimity. Everyone agrees to follow a single line of action. Majority. It has the support of the 50% of the group members. Plurality. It's the largest block of the group makes the decision, even when the majority it's not reached. And dictatorship, one person decides on behalf of the group. Like everything in life, team decisions making has its advantage and disadvantage. Because as advantage, we can highlight the following: more proposals can be suggested, like various knowledge, experience, and point of view are contributed. Everyone is encouraged to get involved in the final decision made. The consequences of a bad decision made are better accepted. All levels of the company are better informed, and the solution strategy is more complete. And for disadvantages, on the other hand, the following can be noted. We tend to decide according to common premises or known situations. The opinion of the leader is usually followed. Some decisions require technical preparation that employees do not have. More time is spent informing everyone and making a decision. Sometimes there's a social pressure in the work environment. A decision it's not always reached unanimously, and there may be hidden purposes motivated by personal interests. The most relevant advantage is undoubtedly the synergy that could be generated when each of the group members contributes more knowledge and skills to the decision. The possible resulting creativity and the greater probability that the decision will be accepted. However, among the disadvantage are that a longer period of time it's required to make the decision, the probability that the decision are more extreme, and finally, individual experience could be ignored, opting instead for the group consensus. The culture is not a separate or complementary dimension in business decision making, but it's a reality present in every business function. Decision making occurs in all areas of human life, as human activities has a very large cultural load despite the homogenizing tendencies to see it as a managerial activity that results from wide uncontrollable variables. Therefore, involving elements of the culture is to enrich the understanding of the decision making process, the actors, and the elements involved in it.